Hey guys, let me show you something. BMW has just unveiled a brand new third generation version of its popular X1. And this one's interesting because it covers all bases. It's available as a mild hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, a diesel, a petrol, and in the case of this white car, a new battery electric model that they're calling the iX1.
I'm going to show you both models, including the mean-looking X1 M Sport later on, but I'll start with the iX1, effectively the spiritual successor to the BMW i3.
Let's get the basic specs out the way, shall we? So it will be all-wheel drive, it will have a motor at the front and a motor at the rear. It will have a 62.4 kilowatt-hour battery pack for a range of 272 miles. It will rapid charge, DC, at 130 kilowatts, and that should take it from 10% to 80% in around 29 minutes. And it should be quite fast as well. 0 to 62 in 5.7 seconds, which is quicker than I'd say the majority of cars in its segment. Speaking of which, it's a very busy segment, so BMW have tried to make this car as distinctive as possible. Now, slight admission, I haven't always been a big fan of the X1. The original car to me looked a bit like a clown shoe. The second generation car moved the game on a lot, but the third one does that even more, and to me, it's quite beautiful. It looks a bit like a baby X5, which is a good thing because I own an X5. I might be a bit biased, but I think it looks really great. A couple of highlights. The front end is really squared off and upright. The kidney grille is very squared off, not too big, not too small. I do like what they've done with these headlights as well. They've pushed them as far as possible to the top left and top right of the car. I'm a big fan of this embossed bonnet as well. It almost looks like it's got a power bulge, almost like it's hiding a supercharged V8 under there. I mean, it's not, it's all electric, but it does look really cool. And I've just noticed as well, on the kidney grille, you've got the radar sensor quite nicely integrated and hidden away instead of having a separate block underneath, which spoils the appearance of the front. You've also got these air curtains on either side, which improve airflow. And you might have noticed that you have these blue elements around the kidney grille and on the lower sections. That's basically BMW saying this car is electric, as if we didn't know. Luckily, these can be deleted. Well, everything except from the blue around the BMW badge. But yeah, in terms of aesthetics from the front, 2 thumbs up. Along the side, yeah, I'm a big fan of this. Again, it's like a BMW X5 that's kind of shrunken in the wash. It's longer than before. It's 4.5 meters long, so 53 millimeters longer. And it's a similar amount taller as well, although the car itself rides slightly lower than on the petrol version. But you do have this gloss black rocker section, which gives it the impression that it's got a slightly taller ride height. Nice, big, pronounced wheel arches with a gloss black section. Thin, crisp lines running the entire length of the car. Flush door handles, which aid aerodynamics. So on this car, it's 0.26, and on the petrol cars, it's 0.27. And it's worth talking about these wing mirrors as well. It's finished in a gray that matches the kidney grille rather than being body colored, which in this case is mineral white. As for the wheels, 17s are standard, but on this car, 20s are fitted, which gives it, again, a nice chunky stance to it. And then back here, you've got the charging port, which takes AC and DC and has a nice little charging light in there as well, which makes it easier to see when you're charging the car at night. Yeah, so it's like a baby X5. What more can I say? Now let's look at the back end, which is actually my favorite angle on this car. I think it looks even better than the back end you get on the BMW X5. In fact, I'd go as far as to say this might be the prettiest rear on any BMW SUV. And yes, you can quote me on that or challenge me in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. A big part of that for me is definitely this rear light configuration, which has this almost 3D effect. It sticks out so far to the side and gives the car this really muscular stance to it. It also serves a useful purpose in the fact that it helps keep the airflow attached to the side of the car as long as possible to help improve aerodynamics and reduce drag. From a practical standpoint, the iX1 will come with an optional electrically deployable tow hitch, and this car will be able to tow 1,200 kilograms, a bit less than on the ICE model, which can tow 2,000 kilograms, and on the PHEV model, which should be able to tow 1,800 kilograms. Now, as for the boot, again, The EV is slightly smaller than on the petrol cars. So the petrol cars will give you 540 litres of storage space, but on the EV, you only get 490. But it's still a very usable space in there. So very squared off, loads of underfloor storage for your cables and lots of nooks and crannies and hooks and tie down points galore. So on the whole, still really practical and good looking, which is very important in my book. Okay, so welcome to the interior of the iX1. The first thing you notice is that it looks really, really premium. For a while, BMW went down the path of having a kind of cookie cutter Russian doll approach where pretty much all their cars look the same inside. So the 1 Series looked the same as an 8 Series, even though they were vastly different in price. But they've kind of moved away from that now, and the iX1 looks like its own thing, and it's better for it. The first thing they've done is kind of focus on making the car feel as spacious and as open as possible. And one of the ways they've done that is to give the dashboard a sloping effect, which does kind of minimize the bulk that sits in front of you. This leather on the top of the dash looks really cool with the stitching which bleeds into the door cards. In the middle, you've got a chrome effect. And the bottom, well, the choice is yours. You can either choose between gloss black, a chrome finish, or what we've got here in this car, which is a wood effect, which works really nicely, I think, with these brown seats. Speaking of these seats, they look great and are very supportive as well. I don't know if you noticed, but you've got these really huge side bolsters, especially up here around the shoulders. So if you're a bit of a boy or girl racer, you're not going to get thrown around in this car too much. There's lots of other clever little touches scattered around this car as well. For example, the cheese grater effect on the Harman Kardon speakers, the grab handles look like they're floating away from the door, and then the actual door handles are nice and thin. It just has a pretty good premium effect about the whole thing. Let's talk about practicality now. So you might have noticed it's got a floating center console, which is quite useful because it means that people who carry handbags, for example, don't leave their handbags directly on the center console, which annoys the hell out of me. They can put that down below in a space dedicated to carrying your luggage. But you've also got a little bit of storage down here in the center console for carrying your bits and bobs and things like that. You've also got 2 cup holders, and this is very, very clever, a phone charger, a wireless phone charger with a little locking mechanism that keeps the phone in place so it doesn't go flying all over the place. At least that's the theory. It looks good, and I hope it works good as well. Now let's talk about the technology. It all lives in this curved display, very similar to what you get on the BMW iX. The one for the driver is 10.7 inches and the infotainment screen is 10.25 inches, and it all looks good and is very, very slick in operation as well. It uses BMW's OS 8, so their latest generation of entertainment setup. Look at that, nice and responsive, nice and quick. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that they've gotten rid of the physical buttons for your heating, ventilation and climate controls. All of it now lives in the screen. They've attempted to make it a bit easier to use by always having your heating controls along the bottom edge, so you can go into there and adjust your steering wheel heating across 3 levels, your seat heating across 3 levels, your fan speed and the direction of the fans. But let's face it, we all prefer buttons, don't we? To their credit, they have included a physical volume knob down here on the center console with physical buttons for going forward or backwards through your music. And there are lots of buttons up here on the steering wheel as well, including a cheeky little boost button on the left-hand paddle.
That boost paddle, in case you're wondering, does what it says on the tin. It gives you more power. Pull it and you get access to the full 313 horsepower and 495 newton meters of torque. That will take the car from standstill to 62 in 5.7 and onto 112 miles an hour flat out. In terms of range, it has a net 62.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is good for up to 272 miles, although real world range will almost certainly be a little bit different.
So let's check out the back of the iX1. It's actually quite nice in here. I love the materials. Sometimes in the back of a family car, the quality of the materials drops slightly, but back here, it's actually quite premium and also quite spacious as well. Loads of leg room. That driver's seat is adjusted for me, and I fit no problem whatsoever, and actually a decent amount of headroom as well, despite the fact that it has a big panoramic glass roof. That seems to let in quite a lot of light as well because it goes so far back, almost in line with the back of your head. In terms of the transmission tunnel, which is an issue with a lot of these cars, there's a bit of a tunnel there, but nothing too outrageous. You can definitely get your leg over there without feeling like you're tripping over the middle of the car. I don't see any temperature controls in this particular car, but there are a couple of USB ports and some vents for the rear. One thing I'm not a big fan of is the fact that the nets on the back of the seat are transparent. So basically, what kids do these days is they hide their valuables, their phones and their iPads and whatnot in the back of car seats. And because these are see-through, then that might attract nefarious types who might be tempted to steal your valuables, but that's not the end of the world. You've also got some ISOFIX points, and these are the good type, which means that the flaps don't detach completely where you lose them. These actually stay attached. You've also got some cup holders and an armrest, which is nice and useful. You can't actually access the boot from the passenger compartment, unfortunately. That's a solid bulkhead, which is a bit of a shame, because if your kids have stuff in the boot that they want to reach, then that would have been a nice, useful addition. But again, not the end of the world. I do like the fact that the rear seats are adjustable. There's a small tab down here which allows you to slouch like I am now, or you can sit a bit more upright, depending on your preference. So that's a nice touch. Yeah, on the whole, I like the back of the cabin. It's good.
If you're not quite ready for electric, ICE engines are available for the X1. This particular example is in the M Sport specification, which looks pretty cool in frozen pure grey with shadow line trim instead of the iX1's blue accents, and the grille and rear bumper feature a so-called dog bone design which helps it stand out. Inside, both are nearly identical, but powertrains are different of course. The X1 is available as a plug-in hybrid with an EV range of up to 55 miles and mixed economy of up to 353.1 miles per gallon with a full battery. BMW will also build a diesel.
So there you go, that is the new petrol, diesel and plug-in hybrid powered BMW X1 and the all-new, all-electric BMW iX1. Prices are unconfirmed right now, but we expect the entry-level cars to start from around £32,000, with the top spec all-electric models starting from around £50,000. What do you guys think? Would you have one of these? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.